Welcome back, students, to the third part of our Class 10, Chapter 1, The Rise of Nationalism in Europe. In the previous parts, we have covered with the topics like how the French Revolution led to the idea of a nation, then about the making of nationalism in Europe. Today, in the third part of the chapter, we will try to understand about the age of revolutions during the period of 1830 to 1848. Now, in this topic, we will know about the revolutionaries who played a very important role to bring about the changes in the European society. It so happened that during the period between 1830 and 1848, the Europeans had witnessed a huge unrest. That is, lot of tensions were prevailing in the society. So what was the reason behind this unrest? It was like the conservative regimes, they were trying to strengthen their power. The revolutionaries, on the other hand, were trying to bring liberalism and nationalism, which started getting increasingly associated with the revolutionaries in many regions of Europe, such as the Italian and the German region, then the provinces of Ottoman Empire, Ireland and Poland. Now first, let us try to understand who were these revolutionaries. These revolutionaries were the educated middle class elites, like the professors, school teachers, the clerks and also the members of the commercial middle class. They started forming groups in different parts of Europe like Italy and German states, Poland and so on. The first incident of revolt took place in France and it was in 1830. In July 1830, the Bourbon kings who restored the power after 1815 were overthrown by the liberal revolutionaries, and a constitutional monarchy was formed under Louis Philippe. He was also a last king in France. Constitutional monarchy is a form of government in which a country is ruled by a king or a queen, but their power is limited by a constitution. That is, king or queen is just a puppet under the constitution. Now, the July Revolution also led to an uprising in Brussels, which led to Belgium breaking away from United Kingdom of Netherlands in October 1830. During all these periods, there was a major event that mobilized, or we can say inculcated, the nationalist feeling among the educated elites, and that was the Greek War of Independence. Now children, when we are talking about the Greek War of Independence, you should know that Greece was a part of Ottoman Empire since 15th century, and the Ottoman Empire was formed in the end of the 13th century by Osman I, a Turkish tribal leader. Hence, along with the other parts, Greece also became a part of Ottoman Empire. Greece began its struggle against the Ottoman Empire in 1821. Greece got support by many sympathetic poets and artists who had sympathized for, or we can say who had sympathies for ancient Greek culture. They praised Greece as the cradle of European civilization. There was an English poet, Lord Byron. He supported this struggle by organizing funds and also participated in the war, where he died of fever in 1824. Then finally, the success of war led to the Treaty of Constantinople in 1832 and recognized Greece as an independent nation. The same Constantinople today, we know it as Istanbul. The revolutionaries wanted to bring liberalism and nationalism in Europe. But it doesn't mean that these changes can be brought only through the wars or the territorial expansion. According to the poets and artists, these changes can be brought through poems, stories, and musics, which can play a very important role. So we can say a cultural movement or the Romanticism also played a very crucial role to develop nationalist sentiments through the medium of poetries, plays, paintings, and so on. The romantic artists and the poets, they generally criticized the glorification of reason and science, and they focused more on the emotions, intuitions, and mystical feelings. That is, the feelings in association with God. Now, Johann Gottfried Herder, who was a German philosopher, he favored Romanticism. He believed that the true spirit of nation can be popularized through folk songs, folk poetries, and folk dances. And the basic aim was to bring back the ancient national spirit and to generate awareness among the illiterates as well. This nation spirit did not only develop in Greece but also could be seen in Poland. Now, by the end of 18th century, Poland was partitioned or was divided by the great powers like Russia, Prussia, and Austria. Now, Poland, though it did not remain an independent territory, but the nationalist feeling were kept alive through music and language. Here in Poland, Karol Karpinski played a very crucial role. He depicted the national struggles through operas. Children, it is a kind of a music like how we have Carnatic music, Hindustani music in India. In Europe, you will find operas a form of music. Karpinski also turned the folk dances like Polonaise and Mazurka into the nationalist symbols. Like Karol Karpinski, there were many others who contributed in this struggle. So, not only folk songs or folk dances, but also languages played a very important role. How is it so? For that, children, if you remember, just now we had seen that Poland was divided between the great powers like Russia, Prussia, and Austria. So, the part of Poland which came under Russian occupancy, where Polish language was forced out, or we can say removed from the schools, and Russian language was imposed. As a result, in 1831, an armed rebellion against Russian rule took place. Then, many members of the clergy in Poland began to use language as a weapon of national resistance. Polish language was used for church gatherings and all religious instructions. Therefore, a large number of priests and bishops were put in jail or sent to Siberia by the Russian authorities as a punishment because they were not ready to preach in Russian language. In Poland, the use of Polish language was used as a symbol of struggle against the Russian dominance. We know that in 1830, various revolutionary attempts took place. Other than that, 1830s is also remembered for hunger, hardship, and the popular revolt. The reason behind the hunger and hardship was the increasing population all over the Europe in the first half of the 19th century. In most of the countries, there were more people who wanted jobs than the actual employment available. So the people from the rural areas, they migrated to the cities to live in the overcrowded slums. It was not only the poor of the society who had to face these problems or these hardships, but also the small producers in the town. They faced stiff competition due to the imported goods of cheap machines from England. Now, this condition could be seen especially in the textile production, as these productions took place mainly in the homes or small workshops, and these places, they were partly mechanized, that is, only the basic machines were available with them. In the regions of Europe where aristocrats were enjoying the power, the peasants in those areas, in those regions, were still struggling under the burden of feudal dues. The bad harvest led to the rise of food prices, which in turn led to the poverty in towns and the countrysides. As there were many hardships, the people started protesting by coming on the streets. One such incident could be seen in Silesia in 1845. This revolt was led by the weavers against the contractors, who supplied them the raw materials and gave them orders for the finished textiles. But these contractors, they gave very less payment, or we can say they reduced their payment drastically. So what exactly happened was that in a Silesian village, there were around 18,000 inhabitants, that is the people who lived in that village, and their main occupation was the cotton weaving. Now, as the weavers, they led a miserable life, the contractors, they took advantage of their condition, because the weavers, they were desperately needing the jobs to meet their ends. And looking at this situation, the contractors, they reduced the price of the goods they ordered. So on 4th June at 2 p.m., a large crowd of the weavers, they came out of their homes and marched in Paris up to the houses of their contractors, demanding higher wages. But in return, they were mocked or they were threatened. So on seeing this situation, one of the group of the weavers forced into the contractor's house, smashed its beautiful, elegant windows, then window panes, then the furnitures, porcelains, and so on. Whereas another group broke into the storehouse and stole the cloth, which was torn into shreds later. Now, looking at this situation, the contractor, he ran away to the neighboring village with his family, but they refused to give him shelter. Then, after 24 hours of the incident, he returned with the army. As a consequence of the incident, 11 weavers were shot dead by the army. due to the food shortages, widespread unemployment. All these situations they led to people's revolt, people's unrest in Paris. Now, such situation could be seen in the year 1848, wherein people came out on the roads in Paris. Barricades were thrown out, and Louis Philippe was forced to flee, to run away. And a National Assembly proclaimed Republic in France. National Assembly granted suffrage, that is, right to vote to all the adult males above 21, and also guaranteed the right to work. But the other parts of Europe like Germany, Italy, Poland, Austria, Hungary, they were not yet independent nation states. So the men and women of the liberal middle classes came together and demanded for constitutionalism with national unification. They demanded for creating a nation state based on the parliamentary principles like a constitution, freedom of press, and freedom of association. In the German regions, many political associations they consisted of middle class professionals, businessmen, and artisans. They came together in the city of Frankfurt and they decided to vote for all German National Assembly. So on 18th May 1848, 831 members were elected and they marched to join the Frankfurt Parliament convened in the Church of St. Paul. A constitution was drafted for German nation. Here they decided that German nation should be headed by a monarch subjected to the parliament. That is, the head of the nation will be a monarch, a king, but he should follow the parliamentary rules. With these terms, the deputies offered the crown to Frederick William IV, the King of Prussia. But he rejected the offer and he joined his hands with the other monarchs to oppose the elected assembly. So now monarchs, military and the aristocrats they opposed the parliament, and therefore the parliament was not that successful. It was also because the parliament was dominated by the middle classes who did not pay much attention towards the demands of the artisans, peasants, then workers, and therefore the parliament also had to lose the support of the peasants, workers, or the artisans. And not only this, but women also who actively participated in the revolts over the years. They were not given any rights. Women had formed their own political associations. They founded newspapers. They had taken part in the political meetings, demonstrations, and so on. Yet their rights of suffrage during the assembly election were denied. In fact, children, do you know when the Frankfurt Parliament convened in the Church of St. Paul, women were allowed only as observers in the visitors gallery. Now you can see over here all these women sitting in the visitors gallery. So even they were not given any rights. Finally, at the end, troops were called and the assembly was forced to disband, or the assembly was forced to disperse. Now again the conservatives came to the power. Though the conservative forces were able to suppress the liberal movements in 1848, but they could not restore their older power. The monarchs began to realize that the recurring of revolution could be ended only by granting concessions to the liberal nationalist revolutionaries. Therefore, in 1848, the autocratic monarchs of the Central and the Eastern Europe began to introduce changes that had already been seen in Western Europe before 1815. Similarly, serfdom and bonded labor were abolished in the regions under Habsburg and in Russia as well. Further, the Habsburg rulers, they granted more autonomy to the Hungarians in 1867. So children, today we have covered the topic of the age of revolutions between 1830 and 1848. In the next part of our lecture, we will be trying to understand about the making of Germany and Italy, that is German unification and the Italian unification. Till then children, goodbye and have a good day.